Yeah, it's interesting that, when you have a design background, these things are actually pretty normal. You really have you just throw 100 ideas out all the time, and you just poke them and do that. And that sort of, for designers, is quite common. It's been common for decades. I think for a lot of other practices and other people in organizations, it's sort of interesting that organizations want, as you said, they want to become like that a little bit more, but often governance and other structural elements prevent that. But generally, there's now that we're already here, there is a parallel between developing the Me Plus and applying that to individuals and organizations, if not teams. Can you see some obvious parallels there that work with that, where you could scale this up or apply it in the same way, or do you think just you could just apply it to a whole team and they would all go through the same thing and that would work? So is that something you had in mind when you wrote the book, or you generally just see that?
Yes, I mean, so now that I'm thinking about it, it wasn't what I had in mind when I wrote the book, because I was really trying to go the other way around, to move from thinking about firm policies to the individual. Since I launched the book, I've done a lot of talks in companies. And people have kind of pointed out that some of the tools are really good actually for them to give to their team members. And one, which I think is a really good example, I speak a lot about feedback in the book, and the ability not just to be able to actively listen and take feedback, but ask for the feedback that you need. And in most corporate companies, we teach people how to give feedback. So, I'm taught about how to give feedback to my team members. No one's ever talked to me about how do I actually go and ask for the feedback that I actually need in my career. And if you think about it, if they taught me how to ask for the feedback that I need and to nudge the manager into kind of the area that I really need to develop, we might be in a better place, because it's a big ask to ask managers who are managing 10, 20, 50, 60 people to individualize and personalize all their feedback. So giving that autonomy, I think, back to the individual allows for the creation of better teams. In my own work at the moment, one thing that I'm really interested in for culture, and maybe actually both of you will have kind of some thoughts on this, is the idea of tipping. So, usually in organizations, they talk a lot about top down. So it needs to be tone at the top, it trickles down, which I think works under kind of a standard standing ovation model in behavioral science. But of course, a lot of times when ideas take on, it's through tipping. So the idea that we could teach people who are in the mid-level of the organization, who are normally actually kind of ignored when it comes to kind of leadership training, how to guide their teams to be inclusive, to embrace dissent, and to get to kind of that nice, the new status quo that we spoke about earlier, where we're arguing in the brainstorming session and agreeing when it's the go forward moment. And whether you'd create tipping of a culture through an organization if you've got enough mid-level managers involved. Because I guess if I'm a mid-level manager and I look at your team and it's performing really, really well because you're embracing dissent, then I'm going to adopt the strategy that you're doing. And I think big directly speaks to that. For these managers who have small teams, can get to know the people, it can help them get the best out at that level, for sure.